don't have a chair. I'm going to run the first part of the meeting up until the point where this group chooses a chair and a vice chair, and then I'll turn over the management of the meeting to them. We are running this as a Brown Act meeting. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Randy Wilson. I'm the planning director and co-manager of the Flood Control and Water Conservation District, and I've been assigned to be the project manager for the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan update. So I'm going to call to order the meeting, and it's a little late. Do we want to do roll call? So let's do roll call.
Sharon Terrell. Here. Paul Brown.
Here.
Terry Swafford. Here. Russell Reed.
Here.
Bill Minnis.
Here.
Jim Roberti.
Here.
Tina Cunningham. Here. Tom Yeagerhofer.
Here.
And Jeffrey Green.
Here.
Oh, and then, I'm sorry, Quentin Youngblood.
Here.
Okay.
So, first item on the agenda is a public comment opportunity for items that are not on the agenda. Anybody have a public comment for an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, we're getting none. Any announcements? Okay. Well, I'm going to welcome you all here. This has been a process to get going. I think it was a little over 2 years ago that we actually applied for a grant to update the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan for the Upper Feather River watershed, which is shown on this map. It's taken us a while to redo things a little bit. The original MOU, which is one of the things for discussion today, needed to be changed. A lot of outreach informally with a lot of the groups that these people represent, and we came up with a different decision-making process that came into play in the final grant agreement with DWR. So welcome. This is the beginning of supposedly a 2-year process, and I would like to say that we could go faster. We feel we're making that kind of progress. Today's meeting is primarily setting the ground rules, the tables, the decision-making process. We're not going to get into a lot of technical information at this meeting, so that's kind of what the focus of this meeting is. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the working group members for their introduction of themselves and some brief statements if they so choose. You might as well start with Jim.
And what am I doing?
Introducing yourself and who you represent.
My name is Jim Roberti. I'm representing the Sierra Valley Groundwater. I guess I am, huh?
Yes,
You're what, supervisor today? You're not that one, huh? I lived in Sierra Valley all my life. We own a ranch over towards the Benton area, and so we have interest in water, obviously.
I'm Tom Yeagerhofer. I'm the interim executive director of the Fuentes County Community Development Commission, and I'm taking the place of David Keller, who recently retired. And I'm told by Mr. Wilson that we represent the disadvantaged, housing interests, and infrastructure on this board.
I'm Tina Cunningham. I represent the Mighty Summit Consortium, and it's a collaboration of Native American groups from the Feather River watershed area, and so hoping to provide representation that's pretty cohesive.
Yeah, I'm Bill Minnis. I'm here representing the Sierra Valley Resource Conservation District.
Paul Rowan representing Sierra County.
Sherry Thrall representing Fuentes County Flood Control District.
Russell Reed, Feather River Resource Conservation District.
Jeff Greening, public member, Lake Alamo Basin, representing Lake Alamo.
Youngblood, District Ranger with the Tahoe National Forest Sierra Ranger District. Glad to be here. Our district has quite a bit of experience in vegetation management projects involving Lots of fuels reduction type of projects, long-standing history of implementation of watershed restoration for a lot of different forms. Very interested in vegetation management projects as well as natural resource projects on the ground that influence, enhance water yield.
So at this point, I could ask the audience, I know a lot of people are representing groups here, to go along and introduce themselves.
I'm Debbie Spangler with the California Department of Water Resources. I'm the program manager from EWR, the grant manager.
I'm Paul Hardy, the Executive Director of the Feather River Land Trust.
Irving Christensen with Sierra County Fire Safe and Watershed Council.
I'm Frank Moskis, General Manager for Plymouth Eureka CSD.
I'm Terry Rustin. Today I'm here as a facilitator, because I'm going to be a facilitator for the flood, plain meadow, and water bodies management work group.
Holly George, University of California Cooperative Extension, Consultants in Sierra Counties.
Phil Olds, Mayor City of Fort Walton.
Good morning, Robert Beecher, City Manager for Fort Walton.
Leah Wills, I'm going to be the coordinator of the Forest and Uplands Work Group.
Bob Peralta, I'm representing the Walker Ranch CSD and the Grizzly Ranch CSD.
Larry Sullivan, General Manager, Quincy CSD.
I'm Alice Berg, I'm just an interested citizen, but I was also very involved with the Humboldt County IRWMP. I wrote a $6 million grant for them. So I wanted to kind of engage to see what's going on here.
Gia Martine, Plymouth Corporation, Chief Administrative Officer and Watershed Coordinator. Courtney Mullen, I'm here for Sierra Institute.
John Olafson with the Plymouth County Planning Commission.
Dan Martin with the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service here in Plymouth and Sierra County.
Cindy Noble, Travel Unlimited.
Okay. So at this point,
I'm Zeke Lunder with Deer Creek Resources, and we're providing the mapping support and some of the technical support for the project team.
And I'm Amanda McKenzie, the prime consultant for the area update.
okay. With that, I'm going to close the door and turn it over for discussion for the working group to choose a chair and vice chair.
Okay. We need leader and vice leader. So I'll open the floor for nominations for chair.
I will second that.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Paul Rowan. Second.
Anybody else? You bet, Paul, you're in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Paul, as vice chair.
That means you can't miss a meeting.
That's right. Okay, that takes us to number 3 on the agenda, which is an overview of the Upper Feather River Integrated Regional Water Management IRWM program and process. And we have down that Debbie is going to do that for us.
Yeah, it's a very fancy title for the quickest presentation in history here. Okay, so I'm the grant manager for this project and the DWR rep that is providing support for the plant update project. So, my office is in Red Bluff. I'm with Northern Region Office for the Department of Water Resources. I'm an engineering geologist there. Okay, so just a little bit of an overview of IRWM. The dark area on the map shows area that is currently accepted in an accepted IRWM. So it covers 87% of the state's geography and 99% of the state's population. Statewide, IRWM officially began in 2002, and the purpose of it was to give a platform for anyone who was interested in water to be able to be involved in the planning process, and for regions to be able to have control over planning in their area so they could focus on the specific issues that they have, and it wasn't a statewide stamp on how water should be managed. And so basically, all over the state in every, if it's working properly. In every region, there's a regional management group that would work on putting a plan together. Okay, so for you, you already have a plan, but it needs to be updated in order for it to be to meet the new state standards. So that's where you guys are starting off today, is to update the existing IRWM plan with an inclusive and collaborative process, and so that's why so many people here today and so many interests are represented. Once you start working on your plan, you'll also be compiling and prioritizing water-related projects in the region, and that'll be included also in the plan, so that in the future, if there's funding available to complete those projects, then there's already a system in place to pick the most important projects for the priorities of the region. Okay, and so just really quick, my roles and responsibilities as part of the group here. We don't have a ton of funding from my side to provide me being here type of a support, but I will be here as often as I can be, and if my presence is needed. But I'm not part of your planning group. I'm support for your planning process. So if you need technical assistance or referral, in case I can't answer the technical questions, I can help you with that kind of thing, but it's outside of your decision-making process. I'm not making decisions for you. Any assistance that I can provide Huma or Randy with the grant-related type things, contract questions, reimbursement issues, that kind of thing. I'm also here to help with, of course, invoice processing and progress report, because as part of the invoicing process, we have to chronicle the progress of the project, and we do that through regular reporting. And then eventually, when your plan becomes almost complete, we'll start down the plan review process so that we can ensure that we've got all the components and they're complete enough for it to be a compliant plan. And we'll be doing that all along, but there is a process where the state gives a stamp on it and says this is a compliant plan. And then in the end, I'll be here to assist with tying up all the loose ends and making sure that all the reimbursement happens and that the grant is closed out so that you'd be eligible for grants in the future. And so you got what looks like a hefty sum of money, but in my experience, it goes fast. And the contract expires June 4th of 2016. So that's kind of the summary of your project. So once again, I'm here to help. It's no one's goal, either me or in any of UWR, to make this a difficult process or to prevent you from getting where you want to go. In the end, we want you to spend the money, and we want you to come up with a successful and robust plan that serves your region. So, and then we also want to be able to, in the future, be able to help support water-related activities in the Feather River region.
Anybody have questions for Debbie before she tries to escape?
Wait a minute, there's no time to this question. But anytime, and I have cards, and I'll leave cards. I just grabbed a few, but I'll leave cards, and so if you need to get a hold of me, feel free to call.
Thank you, and thank you for all the help you've given to get us through it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
That takes us to item 4, update and review new draft UFR IRWM program memorandum of understanding MOU. And that's Randy.
That's me. We'll make note that Phil Hoffman from Plymouth is now here. Sorry about that. So we're only really missing the last thing. I'm not sure what's going on. Thank you all for coming. I mean, this is a big commitment of time. So, sort of a way of background, we applied for the original grant based on a MOU that was done in 2009 when Brian Morris was the manager of the Plymouth County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. In putting together the final grant agreement with DWR, we listened to what was going on in the region in terms of decision making and came up with a slightly different decision-making process where the old MOU had all the signatories get together and establish basically the working group. It's called the steering committee. The working group was pretty much established when we did the, members were pretty much established when we did the grant agreement. And that, therefore, you're all sitting here. So what we're presenting today, and it's for discussion and some feedback, not a final action, is a draft of a new MOU. And kind of just sort of what's going on here. The Regional Management Working Group is really the focus of the MOU. It always was, even under the 2009 MOU. When you really read it, it was to provide support, choosing a steering committee or the working group, and then proceed from there. The original grant agreement had numerous subgroups. And putting it all together, we went, whoa, there's like a zillion meetings here. We didn't get as much money in the grant as we thought we were going to get. And so we ended up distilling those the work group signatories. And we have to get used to this language. There's the Regional Water Management Working Group, and then there's the work groups, the lower kind of body, who make referrals to your group, the Regional Water Management Group. So staff has put together a modification of the original MOU, and hopefully you've had a chance to kind of look at it. I did notice for the forest portion, the original MOU had separate agreements, and I'll look at that. I haven't done that yet. I noticed that this morning. I went, well, I put together a revised MOU, but I forgot to deal with the advisory issue that the forest has to be in terms of this decision-making body. So I'll be putting that together for the next meeting. So do you want me to kind of go through this MOU, or how would you like to begin the discussion of it? If you had a chance to read it, you want to give us some feedback. We did not put on the agenda a decision on this MOU today, feeling that, first exposure to this new document would be that, first exposure and some feedback, and then present it at the second meeting of this working group.
Does anybody, have you had a chance to read it? I know you must send it out. And any questions, any comments?
My only comment is that this is a newer process as far as trying to get more cohesive tribal collaboration and to be able to do outreach for tribes. We're trying to set up meetings in October, some of that and get more feedback. And so having a draft would be really great.
Well, Randy, why don't you, I hate to say this because a lot of us are familiar with the old MOU, but there are some of us who probably aren't. But just briefly, can you talk about any major changes?
The really major change was that we have an established working group that came out in the grant agreement. When I started working on this, I went, wow, this is really pretty good. Brian's got a lot of legal sites in here. I really didn't touch those. He's got a lot of definitions. Some of them I did touch. And one of the questions before you later today is how the working group will make decisions, whether it will be by consensus and majority rules. The MOU still contains for the work groups a consensus component. So I use basically the same language from the previous one, a lot of sites where the law authorizes the establishment of the 3 or more agencies, at least 2 of which have statutory authority over water supply, to enter into an MOU, and that's exactly basically out of the old MOU. It recognizes that the previous MOU, or in 2005, there was a working group to update the existing IRWM for the Upper Feather River, and then goes beyond that. And I think that was the intention. And I'm going to key off of Brian, because when I really started editing, I went, wow, this is pretty good. So it goes on, and then there's definitions. The definition of consensus that was in the original MOU has not changed, but that basically applies to the work groups. Going down, fiscal year is the same, the plan language is the same, the act. Majority, I wrote that in. Majority means the majority of members of the Regional Water Management Work Group have agreed upon an issue or action. There are 9 voting members of the work group, of the Regional Water Management Group, and 5 members agreeing upon an issue or action means the issue or action has passed. That is something for you to decide upon today, but I put it in here so that there's a trigger. There was some wordsmithing a little bit about what the work group signatures would be. That's another component. And at this point, it means parties to this MOU who agree to participate in designated work groups that provide at a minimum input on project selection and prioritization criteria, receive and present comments on the draft IRWN plan chapter reviews, and invite and schedule presentations by technical experts, scientists, and other work group and regional water management group meetings. Decision-making by the work group signatories on projects, draft chapters, review, etc. will be structured to seek consensus. I did not make it majority rules because you could have a whole bunch of participants in the work groups.
These are, you're referring to the
subgroups, not the working group, or a supermajority agreement by work group signatories before being forwarded to the Regional Water Management Group. That was kind of the major thing that ended up, besides some tweaking of the language to align the MOU with the decision-making process that's being used for this project. It outlines the members of the working group, and then it even has a little point in here about providing funding, if possible, from the organizations involved. That's a carryover from the previous water MOU, and it gets into the 4 areas of the work groups. The agricultural stewardship work group. This work group includes irrigated lands, water quality issues, agricultural water supply reliability, and agricultural water use efficiency. There's the uplands and forest management work group. This group would include pollution prevention, wildfires, roads, watershed management, forest water interactions, forest ecosystem restoration, upland recharge area protection, flood risk reduction through wildfire risk reduction, precipitation enhancement, better groundwater infiltration, and less evapotranspiration through forest stand density reduction, etc. Floodplain and meadow and water bodies management group. This work group would include recharge area protection, flood risk management, pollution prevention, ecosystem restoration, and may be conjunctive with water management and groundwater. And then the other work group is the municipal services work group. This work group would include recycled municipal water, urban water use, efficiency, groundwater and surface water, pollution prevention, water system reoperation, drinking water treatment and distribution, and perhaps groundwater and aquifer remediation, urban runoff management, and matching water quality to use. The previous IRWM had a focus on, I want to say, ecological issues and restoration. In putting together the final agreement with DWR, we looked at saying that's important, forest management is important, forest water issues are important, but infrastructure issues for the communities within the upper region are also important. There's a number of those issues out there. Aging infrastructure, changing regulations, putting pressure on sewage disposal systems, that sort of thing. And so that last group is to really kind of look at that. So it won't be so much a focus entirely on restoration or those kinds of issues, but also on basically our basic infrastructure issues related to water. So I guess this is an introduction to the MOU. As Trina was saying, it's going to be vetted with some folks that she's working with. I think that staff's recommendation is to, if you have any immediate feedback to us at this point, please give it. If not, please review it intensely, and we'll put it on as a decision-making item on the next regional water management meeting.
I think one of the most important paragraphs in it is on the very last page, where it talks about the relationship of the parties. And I think that's really an important point to make to everybody as we start reviewing it, is that as the parties enter into the MOU, it's the intention of the parties that it not be construed as an enforceable contractual agreement, but rather a statement of principles, and shall not be the basis for litigation between the parties or any third party. But I think, as I remember back to when we first started the IRWM process years ago, there was a major discussion on what legal vehicle we would use to tie the thing together, and the MOU process is what ultimately came out of that. So I think that's important for people in the audience as well as people on the steering group to understand that we're ultimately going to be going back to everybody we represent saying you need to sign this thing. So.
And we did put a copy of the existing MOU in your packet today so that you could review that and make any comments and changes. Again, staff is taking a stab at this point. We made sure that we have draft on every page so it was very clear that this wasn't a final proposal by staff to this group or to anybody in the room, and we want to bring it back next time for a pretty serious discussion and what we should do with it and move on from there.
Any other discussion or questions?
Well, I would just like to convince staff that I think it's a good first step.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Item 5, stakeholder outreach.
So you'll have a stakeholder involvement plan in this draft form in your packet. And again, this is similar to the MOU while we're introducing it to you, and it will be, it's not recommended for any kind of action except until maybe possibly next meeting. So the SIP, or Stakeholder Involvement Plan, is the identification of approach and methods for outreach to stakeholders, local agencies, and the public. There are certain, it's a requirement, not the plan itself, but stakeholder involvement and outreach is a requirement of the DWR guidelines for the preparation of the IRWM. And so we pulled this together. The content of the SIP it includes the methods and tools for public outreach. It includes some draft meeting guidelines and a draft decision-making protocol. Both of those items we're going to pull it out as separate discussion items for today. We've also included a draft schedule of meetings and meeting milestones, and then included the website information and contact and email lists. And the contact list is in here as an initial take on the contact list, and it's based on the original 2009 MOU signatories. We expect that list to grow, and would hope for help from you guys to identify folks, and also for people to sign in at meetings and request inclusion. So this is just for information and review today. It's for you guys to take a look through, see how comfortable you feel with it, any changes you'd like to make. As I mentioned, we pulled 2 items out to discuss after this: draft meeting guidelines and the decision-making protocol. And then tentatively, we'll schedule this for consideration and possible action on it at the next management meeting.
Just to add to it, is a requirement of the grant agreement that we do this SIP and stakeholders engagement process.
Anyone have any comments on the SIP plan now? Or need to, again, like the MOU, really review it intensely? It's a lot of material, to say the least.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons you're seeing these drafts today is to get your engagement in it, your experience, sending out packets. You want certain things you want people to be exposed to and start to think about, but not have a decision on it because it requires some real studying. But we wanted to make sure you had this for this first meeting, so you had that opportunity between now and the next meeting, which is roughly in a couple of months, some time to really get into it and feel comfortable with what you with approving the final plan.
Okay, any questions, comments?
It's a procedural question. What I'd like to have is if you could, and I can talk to you about this after the meeting and get you a date, but I'd like to have you or Randy, probably you or Randy, or both, come to the RCD meeting and when I present this, so that you'll be there to make a presentation and answer questions that might come up that I may not know the answer to because you haven't been to this one meeting. I can talk to you later about that, but I think that would be a good way to familiarize the other members of our board with what we're planning so that we could have more meaningful input into the plan.
I just want to add, Bill, thank you very much for making me look like an idiot. That I have to now go along and say, yeah, me too.
Barn doors. I think they'll do a better job of explaining and answering questions than I would.
What I'd recommend is, I think we ought to have another meeting, and that way we don't do it twice, so the RCDs can be.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we'll have a joint RCD meeting, and then you only have to come one.
Exactly, and then everybody's on the same page.
Trina, well, along that line, but I don't know how feasible it would be for the two of you or either of you to attend each of these working group meetings to present that, but if there could be some sort of talking points or something put together so that that we could present it, and if there were further questions, we could answer those for people. That might, for me, that might cover something that you didn't actually have to be at each meeting.
Well, as a project manager, I'm open to getting effective communication on this issue. And if I need to attend meetings, I've been attending the Sierra Valley Groundwater Management District meeting. I think I've been to 3 of them in the last month and a half. I'm certainly, with some forewarning, willing to do that over the next couple of months if UMA is not available to do that.
October 14th at 4:30.
Not that he has it in grade.
So there's just, you all have my email, I believe, just a circle of the emails to UMA and I, and we'll try to make sure that I can do those meetings. This is a pretty important concept because it really does set the table for public input, and effective management of public input early in the planning process is necessary for successful planning process in the end. So taking a little bit of time and having some good communication with the groups you mentioned, you represent a certain part of it. So I'm willing to do that.
Good. I think that's really important. I've made the point numerous times in the last couple of months that the groundwork we're laying today and going forward the next couple of months is going to be whether this is successful or not. So,
presumably the website is a major contribution to the staying in the loop.
Yeah, and we're still working on bringing that website presence more prominent. It's currently looped into the county website, and we're getting close. We've set up a lot of information, and Zeke and Uma can really talk more about the specifics, but yes, that's important too.
Well, my biggest concern is that as you get deeper into the groups the folks that we represent, they would like to have it translated into English as opposed to what some of us are used to. The bureaucratic ease that we are dealing with is that I think we need to have a package that is understandable and realistic to people that are out there in the field, or the real people out there. I'm not saying we're not real, but I think it's really hard. We were at an RCD meeting last night, and it was really pretty evident that folks was going to, so what are you doing this for now? Just because you want to, or because there's a lot of money there? I mean, I think it's just really getting to the point really quickly. Is this the avenue for us to be able to fund stuff? If this is it, then we just need to say that a little bit more in real terms, as opposed to going through this whole process. Because you look at all this and saying, what the heck are we doing this for?
It's also to direct the funding strategies that we want to move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I just think we should put it in a package
for our counties.
If you're going to go to the people and they're not, we're going to get money. Is there going to be a local municipality that's going to get some money to update the city? That's probably why people are sitting in the seats here. And I think we have to kind of keep coming back to that. That why are we here? What's the real point? And how can we really better do the things that we say we're going to do in English?
I look at it as problem identification. That's what a project is in my mind. When we identify a project, and really what we're doing is identifying a problem we need to solve. And there is an emphasis in this whole process on acquiring Prop 84 grant funding, which has been, there's a recent announcement, there's some money left, but I've always looked at it as the community of the Upper Feather River, all of us, identifying those projects and problems that need to be solved. And in doing so, we create a mutual understanding of the issues. There's a cross-section of the community that you guys represent. And if the funding of the projects or problems is not through Prop 84, there are other sources of funding out there. And this process should, in fact, create some support for other projects and other fundings beyond the Prop 84 standards that we're trying to achieve. I think I can communicate that to. We're forced to do some formalities with all this, but I agree that it needs to be understandable for the people.
I think too that Jeff's point about the website is really important, and because we're talking about stakeholder involvement plan. I know some of us have talked about the fact that this should be a standalone website rather than tied to Plumas County, because at this table we're all equal. This isn't Plumas County's thing. So I think there should be a link on Plumas County's site as well as Sierra's or anywhere that would take them to the standalone site. But I think the goal should be that we have a separate website that's dedicated to IRWM. We're going to be uploading all kinds of stuff, including videos and background material. And as we go into it, like with the video today, one of the reasons I was wanting that uploaded so badly was I see faces at the table changing over the years. And some of the material we're going to be talking about today might be really important for that new person to be able to go back and access that information. So, but I really think that our ultimate goal with the website should be a standalone IRWM website. That's just my opinion, but I'd like to hear anybody else weigh in.
And links from all the other organizations.
You guys listening?
And I don't think there's anything more effective than the video, because a tremendous amount of the audience and participants will go to a video and get a feel that they'll never get out of a pile of paper.
And it goes to what Russell was just saying too, because when you're watching the video, that usually is in English, not governmentese. And so I think that's helpful for people too, that they can, hear what people are saying and less governmentese, I guess we could do it.
I'm going to make a suggestion. I know it's been a couple of years since we've met, I think almost 2 years since we've met. We have a lot of stakeholders in the audience. Debbie was looking on the agenda as far as kind of an overview of the program, the government program. I think it may be advantageous to take 5 minutes and just, what led to the program, the purpose of, objectives, those type of things. Nothing elaborate or anything, but just a broad overview. Would that be possible?
Well, she did that as the first thing on the agenda today, and that was filmed. So the good thing about that is that broad overview that she gave this morning will be available. And I think that's, like you said, a really key thing goes back to what we've all said is, the question everybody has is, why are we even here? Why are we doing this? And I think that's, your comments this morning were really well done. And that's all.
Very general. So if you're looking for more specific information, I can certainly provide more specific information. I brought some pamphlets on the program itself, and it actually has a really nice overview of it. And we can certainly make information like that available to you to put on the website, or to link our IRWM website to your
That
website.
would be really key, I think, because I'm sure you have.
There's a
these
ton
kinds
of
things
information on there about funding and the program and the history and all of that. So
that would be, I think, more important than us trying to upload it, is just to have an introduction and a link to your website. Okay. Anything else on item 5A? That takes us to B, which is the draft notice of intent. This is discussion and correction. Possible correction.
So the DWR's 2012 IRWM guidelines require publishing the notice of intent to parents and also to adopt the plan update. So there's a draft included in your packet, and this is the notice of intent to prepare. And so I guess we're seeking approval of the notice of intent and a direction to publish it.
So moved.
All moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Bill, thank you. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank
Think you got that? That takes us to 5C, which is draft meeting guidelines for this group and working group sessions, discussion and possible action. That's one of the items you said you pulled out of the MOU for discussion.
Right, this is some of the steps, the stakeholder involvement plan, one of the sections we pulled out. The purpose for establishing meeting guidelines is to encourage respectful, collaborative, and focused atmosphere. And they would likely apply to the management group meetings, the work groups, and the workshops that are held as well. So these suggestions that are included here were collected from other IRWM efforts in the area and the region, some forest and water planning efforts, and we pulled them all together for your consideration. So I left it to you to kind of go through them, see if you felt they were applicable, and were comfortable with them, or if you'd like to suggest to others, then we could.
And I can go down through them individually.
I don't, does anybody want him to go individually down through this? No. I think we've all sat in enough public meetings that we're probably somewhat familiar with how they should be handled. And I think this is a very good job at laying that out for you. So today you want from us approval of using these meeting guidelines, and these would apply to both this group and the subgroups as they are meeting in court. Any questions or discussion? Or do I hear a motion to adopt, or would you rather put it off?
So moved. Second.
Okay, got a movement and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 5E, decision-making protocol for this group, discussion and possible action.
Moving this meeting along.
I'd like to do that, as you probably already know.
So Randy went over this a little bit in the MOU already. You are the decision-making body for the IRWM update, and it's up to you as well to decide what the decision-making protocol will be for the plan. What I've pulled out here is what was included in the 2009 MOU. That was revised somewhat for the draft MOU that will be presented today. Also included in your packet is as background information is a summary of the governance structures for the adjoining IRWMs. Also kind of provide you some information as to how other IRWMs are doing it. So I don't know if you want to discuss the...
Well, I think we probably do want to at least open it up for discussion, Bill.
I just have a question for clarification. There's one exception to the majority, which is a supermajority vote. Resolution of a matter where the members have failed to achieve consensus and have referred the matter to the RWMG. Could you expand on that a little bit? What that would be?
I think that's changed in the MOU, by the way. What we were trying to do was figure out how to do tiebreakers. And this was from the original MOU. It has been modified to just plain consensus. And I can't remember in the MOU that was prepared if I actually addressed this issue head on. But it is something for you to consider. You're going to get recommendations from the work groups. And we're at this point saying that that should be by consensus of the work groups, partly because we don't know the ultimate composition of the work groups, and there could be new members and people drop out of the work groups. I'm trying to figure out, okay, if they don't reach consensus, it should come up to your work group, your group, to basically decide on that.
Make a decision.
Make a decision. This is also talking in the majority rule decision for your group. So the original MOU, again, was based on bringing everybody together, and from that whole group, there would be the choosing of the work group. Now we've changed that there's an established work group through the MOU, and we still need to figure out how to resolve that issue of then the work group not getting to a decision. In the MOU, as I read earlier, I put in it majority rules, and that is probably something you could make a decision on today on how you would like to make a decision as the regional water management group. Certainly, if you want to make it continue majority rules, should you choose that, you could do that on issues that come up to you from the work groups.
So, if I understand what you're saying, take a little bit out of both of these, that the subgroups they will be operating under a consensus theory. But should they come to a dead end where there is no consensus, that then that particular matter would be referred to this group to decide one way or the other how to proceed. Right. That's one issue. The second issue is when something gets to this group, or this group just makes a decision on something that is their purview, that we need to decide the method that we would use to make that decision. I think, number one, it's really important that whatever we do with something like this, that it be consistent with the MOU. So you want to be sure to go back and redo that. But so I would open that up for discussion among the group here as far as what method this group will use. There are 9 of us who vote. We have 3 representatives who are advisory and don't vote from the forest. We've already said that 5 out of the 9 constitutes a quorum. So we've established quorum, I think. So what's your feeling, consensus versus majority vote for decision making?
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of using majority vote as our decision making?
For all matters.
For all matters.
Aye.
Opposed?
So they were answered then.
Yes.
So we're going to scratch A then.
Yeah.
I was the last element went into this package was the MOU, so there was a little lack of syncing between UMA on this as we tried to meet a pretty tight deadline.
Yes, no, we appreciate it.
That's why it got hung there, and I have it underlined on my package.
Yeah, like I say, as we go through this, there'll probably be a lot of things that we might find are not 100% consistent that we need to go back and be careful of. As I said, it's a lot of government use in this thing. So, that being said, as Randy just pointed out, I like meetings to move along. And so we're at mid-morning break, and I guess the question would be, do we want to take a mid-morning recess? Or would you rather move on to at least part of item 6? Anybody need a recess? Can't go out on the playground. Okay, let's go ahead and move on then. Item 6 is the Feather River IRWM work groups.
And we gave a brief overview of the work groups that were identified in the work plan with DWR. Then you kind of went through them, so I won't read again what each of them are focused on. What I'll say though is that there are 4. There's the agricultural land stewardship. As part of our consultant team, we have coordinators for each of the work groups, and the coordinator for the agricultural land stewardship is Holly Foster. We have the uplands and forest management work group, and that coordinator is Leah Wells. And floodplain, meadow, and water bodies management work group is Terry Rust. And then I'll be doing the coordinating and municipal services group. The structure is set up so that there are work group members, and then there will be a work group coordinator that will work with each group, provide them the information that they need, help them set up presentations, that sort of thing. And then there will also be a work group chair who will be selected, identified by the work group members, and then if there's with input from the management group because. And they'll work together and then also be a liaison between the work group members and the management group. So each management group meeting there will be a presentation by each of the work group chairs, and the coordinator can provide backup to the chair of the thing. The way it's set up is that each work group will meet 4 times per year. There'll be a total of 32 work group meetings over the 2-year period of time. One meeting each year will be a workshop where all the work groups will come together and hash out stuff that they all need to work on. And management group members will also be invited to those workshops as well.
No, at this point.
So, to give you an overview of the coordinator role, they'll provide coordination and meeting support for the work groups, be setting up the meetings, again, getting them the information they need, facilitating the meetings. Coordinator, they'll coordinate the information needs for the work groups, and that'll be identified by the work group members and also by the chairs. They'll provide support for planning and project development tasks that are assigned by you all to the work groups. And then the focus will be to build commitment and shared focus between the work group members. So the coordinator will also be a primary contact for work group members, and our intent is that there will be an email link on the website for each of the work group coordinators that folks can contact them directly. So there's also the work group chair, and that's a person that will be selected by the work group with input from you all. Should also probably consider an alternate chair in case the chair can't make it to the management group meetings. And they'll collaborate with the work group coordinator to lead the meetings. So it'll be a kind of tag team working on it together. They'll provide the updates and relay information to the management group, and also talk about the recommendations from the work groups to you all. And so they'll be attending and providing updates. Initially, members that have been, those that have been identified and included in the stakeholder involvement plan are the MOU members from 2009. And we'll be sending out information and invitations to them to join the work groups. And then stakeholders that are identified as we go along. The public is invited to participate in the work groups. The meetings will have sign-up sheets, and that's part of the paper trail requirement, the documentation requirement for the IRWM. And then there'll be contact information for folks to be able to get involved with the work groups. They can contact Randy, they can contact us through the website, through the email links, and then they can contact the work group chairs and coordinators as well. So the work groups will be providing recommendations to the management group. A little bit later, we'll talk about the resource management strategies that are contained in the California Water Plan, and we're required to address those in the IRWM update. So you as the management group will be assigning those management strategies to the work groups to discuss and work through. They'll be providing input on project selection and prioritization criteria, and they'll also be providing comments on the draft plan chapters. And as Randy mentioned, they'll be inviting presentations, identifying technical information that they need. They'll bring in scientists and to the work group meetings, and also identifying workshops that they'd like to have, and presentations for the management groups.
Just a quick question before you move on. As these work groups are meeting, have we given some thought to where the locations of those meetings will be held? In other words, my hope is that you're planning on the groups meeting around the county. Yeah, rather than just having everybody always travel to Quincy or Portola or Chester or something like that. Because if we want maximum public engagement, we're going to need to take the meetings where the public is and not expect them to drive all over Creation. So have you given thought to how that would work?
We haven't identified the spots, but there is a recognition that we need to move these around in the upper IRWM region. So that, as you're saying, so we can get the best participation, not just having in Quincy. The other thing that I wanted to say is that the coordinator idea is to help facilitate these work groups along. Not just going to give them an assignment, go meet. Coordinators are there to facilitate, help set them up, deal with issues as they can, so they can actually get some work done. That's the idea of the coordinators. And again, we haven't decided where the meetings would be at this point, but we certainly are well aware that they should be around the region. They're key players. And basically what we have here with your group is a representation of very distinct geographical areas of the county, which includes Jeff as the Alamo region, because we really didn't feel that we didn't have a good representation from Almanor. Originally, the MOU, I think, and the whole thing was ABWAC, and that is not part of it anymore. But there is recognition moving down.
Stakeholder groups are probably best prepared anyway to contribute where their geographic interests and pressures are.
Well, we did something similar when we did the plan update. We had meetings all around the county. One thing that started out with great, we had a lot of participation in the beginning, and then as we went along, the participants kind of faded. And I think we should try to get them to continue to participate. I mean, we can't force them, but I don't know how we could do that. But I would like to see them participate.
I would echo what I saw. Exactly what you're saying is that we did have a fall off of the work group participation in the general plan update. One difference is we really have a target date right now. It's less than 2 years, according to the grant agreement. That could help keep people involved, knowing that it's not going to run on for 5 years and 8 years, however long it takes to do a general plan update. So, yeah, we need to make sure that we continue participation and as we move along.
Maybe we could have a little bring cookies or something.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what those cookies are, and that is the reality. There's talkers and there's doers, and if all we have left in the room are talkers, then the real action plan never gets done. So I think the key is we gotta make sure that we can get those folks at the table that really are the doers. And then, but to keep them there is, there's gotta be some cookies. There's gotta be, well, why am I here? I keep going back to that, but we've been to too many meetings for no reason. And so I think there needs to be a reason. The reason is because we think that we can get something done. We can thin the forest. We can improve the watershed by many different practices. We're just going to split this discussion. So enough of that, so I'll be on that horse for a long time. Because
we just thought of refreshments today, but we weren't quite that together.
And I think that's really a good point, because I would see that our role, because we're all here representing different organizations, is to beat the bushes, to find the doers, and twist their arms to get them to the meetings. Which then brings me to another point. Is it your anticipation that members of this group would attend those other types of meetings, or would you think that would not, that we should just sit here in our kingdom and wait for them to come to
I think we are, especially in our own areas, I think we have to attend.
That's
I would encourage your attendance, as I would encourage getting as many people in the public involved in these meetings too. Recognizing that you are a Brown Act committee and that you wouldn't want to have too many people there that would violate that. But I look at it as the need for a very open process. The language of my educational background, some people need to bring kicking and screaming into the process. So part of it is continuing identification of interest that may want to participate or need to participate, frankly, in some of this. So I would not think that you would be precluded from going to these meetings as long as you're aware of the Brown Act circumstances.
Which leads forward.
right. One of us can attend any one meeting. Which
And
is
as much
probably
as
more than I
going
would
back
want
to the original
to.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, I'm sorry, I was talking.
No, I was,
I think that's going to be really key to the success of these groups, is our ability to motivate people to go as well as the coordinators. I really like the coordinator idea, because my experience with most groups is without that key driver, it falls apart after a really short time. So.
I agree with you. I think the coordinators are key, important. We've got good, I think that's going to make it successful, honestly.
Okay. Ready to move on to resource management strategy?
Just a couple of things. We did bring some sign-up sheets for the work groups, so that those who are here can go ahead and sign up for work groups today if they'd like to. And I can pass those around.
Okay, Paul is telling me that he thinks this might be appropriate time to take a short break.
We have other action, good signs.
Okay, yeah, and just one other thing before the break then, Zeke is doing our GIS, and Brian Mack would like to talk about it.
So my company is Deer Creek Resources, and we develop base maps and also GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. So we collect geographic data and we make sense of it and use it to display ideas and concepts on paper. But also we use it a lot to kind of gather public input. So we've been doing, say, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan in Yuba County. What we try to do is make as much of our note-taking map-based as possible. So when we have public meetings, we bring a lot of Sharpies. We like to get people just to draw on the map. If people have issues, if someone's going to dry a well, or if Westwood needs a new pumping station for their spring. Those are things we want to get on the map. And so going through this work group process, we're going to be developing thematic maps for each work group. So for the forestry one, maybe we'll have some thematic maps for fire history, fuel loading, places fuels projects have been done. For the meadows and uplands, we'll have the meadow areas that have been mapped, projects people have done already in meadows. So what we're trying to do is gather as much information as we can from each stakeholder, each group. So what we'll be doing is contacting groups that may have data already. And we've got kind of a lot of our own base data that we've also gotten from the county. But our role in the project is to collect that information, and then your role in the project is to make sure everyone's got a Sharpie and draw on these maps. And what we do is maps come back to us, we digitize that, and we kind of build this archive or catalog of all these comments. And then later in the project, we can just throw up a map that has all the comments from all the different people who've been involved in the meetings. But we, would like all you guys to make sure you stick a Sharpie. If someone's talking about something, waving their arms around and complaining, just give them a Sharpie and say, here, draw it on the map. And then that's how we capture it and move forward. Oh, and then I had a comment that's Alaskan County native, is I'd like to see them maybe on the MOU.
Them who?
Alaskan County. I don't see them on it.
As the county or as Mountain Meadows or
Well, as a
somebody?
participant in the process, just because we've got, Clear Creek and Westwood are in Alaskan County. I don't know if you know how the county, if it's enough just to say that this is also in the Alamo Basin, so it could be that you're representing those areas. But as far as, they should have a seat at the table, I think. I don't know if it's just how we bring it out.
They will have a seat at any of the sub-working groups, certainly. And that's where most of those issues would come forward. And since I'm the supervisor from the Almanor area, I can tell you that we coordinate very closely with them, as you know, because it's your family that's mostly there. But I would see that function being more a function of the actual working groups where the issues are vetted and come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is my experience with the ABWAC group, the Almanor Basin, started out that we asked the board of supervisors to participate, and one of their supervisors said he would. And then it just became quite clear that this was not going to be a priority. And so I think that's just my personal opinion, but I would see that function and integration more at the work group level, where if somebody truly has a concern that involves the whole area, that's where it would be vetted out. But I like your map idea, putting stuff up on the map, because it's sometimes hard to know exactly where something is that somebody is ranting about.
Although how do you extrapolate all those notes off of a map?
Well, people just
I
draw
mean,
them.
assuming we
digitize them and then they have a point in space. So they live in.
But I mean, quite literally while they're doing their Sharpie on the map.
We hope that they're accurate, right? Hope that they can read a map. I guess that's part of all of our jobs. If we can read a map and we're talking to people, make sure that if they're drawing something about Clear Creek, it's not in Chester.
One comment I would like to make is the Upper Feather River region that we're doing this plan for includes Alaskan County. It looks to me, I think it includes a little bit of portion of Yuba County, obviously Sierra County, Climas County, and Butte County. The boundary goes clear down to basically Lake Oroville's dam. The intent is in the interregional outlook to enter into a separate MOU, and we'll be bringing them forward at some point, to take out basically the area of Butte County that they're dealing with already.
Right.
But it is an extensive region, and it's basically, having just given a presentation in LA, the water supply for the California Water Project. So just to add in the importance of what this means to local economies and the issues and problems that we're trying to identify and solve, it is what it is. It is that source of water for that project. And we should never forget that in terms of what it means to our local economies and our issues.
That's true, and some of the counties that are in the watershed per se are involved in other IRWMs. Portions of them too, so in some cases that's why they may not be involved in this one because they're already a signatory to another one. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break so people can sign up to be on the subgroups that they're with.
Yeah, draw on the map.
Draw on the map.
How we doing?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Oh, I should be out here.
First meeting is always.
Well, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do that.
You're actually.
In Greenville?
Yeah. So what you're saying is, right, so
For yesterday?
then I take it back and just buy it. We're kind of the leaders.
Oh, yeah.
I'm also trying to, I think just being here
Oh, she's not. So where are you going?
So that's something.
Somebody wants to. I'll let you know what happened. It's just been good. Oh, yeah. Did you sign up for? So you
So I'm gonna be on the forest and, work crew. I wanna hook up with the fire stations, they're the movers. They can So what I would think is we can tie in what we're doing when you guys are having the forest. You know, like, cause what you're doing is kind of, most of it is just maybe not just the water. The water and fire are definitely. And so what our job is to make them tie. So when you invest in the fire safe project, you know, and that's gonna be our job really. And so we know everybody's got a piece of it. Our job is to kind of glue it together. Okay, so when you say you do a project where you're restoring acid, doing the thing, you're taking out the conifers, and you got a much more dominated scale of big trees and oaks and that's trees and bushes. Compared to say it's just a conifer thicket, just radiated. Yeah, but that's not what we're going for. Taking out the ladder panels, leaving the big trees, just opposite. Water's opposite, but it's connected because what Colin said is if you do a good thinning job, those trees that are left. You know what I mean? So it's like we just have to make those loops. I'm going to be the outreach for this area. So I'm going to be trying to work with you guys and go, okay, we're going to change what you do in the water talk, but it's supporting what you do. So that when we come into projects, we go, this fire safe project really matters because it is a recharge area. Well, I saw that on. You know what I mean? So that's like a little around. Sure, yeah. Yeah, because what we're going to try and do is this leadership group will meet 1 month, the next leadership group, you know, so but you know, maybe really choose to come over from the best, drinking water dies, and maybe they'll meet the same days, regional water management group. The rest of us work groups, we want to fit into what you guys are already doing and just kind of add on the water piece. Because the new bond has a lot of groundwater storage for water. Leaving out those conifers and they're not radiating all that water back up into the sky, it's going to the I call it waste into the sky. All that rain and snow just radiates right back up. That water goes. Okay, so what might get added to your project, so might be a water sensor. The only thing that shows when you think that water is down. Yeah, and so my job is to take your journey and turn it into water sessions. So we talk to the evapotranspiration, they understand that ag, and they understand underlines, and they don't understand reports. So we're going to be taking forest health and turning it into evapotranspiration.
If there wasn't,
We might get the water guys to understand that they won't you know, if we end up in that case and we get it done. So there's some signs. You know, keep it I works in groundwater hydrology for Sierra Valley. Okay, he's gonna be doing one more. There's a lot starting to happen on what happens when you have it so thick that it just evaporates and all these new pumps. I just want the water that didn't used to be here, fire suppression. So he's gonna be working on that. Then there's the half on the ground. Because what they found out is there's a huge basin in the Central Valley. It's got more water than all the snowpack in the Sierra, 2,500 acre feet. Lawrence Livermore took a study of that. The Sierra, that groundwater basin is connected to the Sierra. It's not coming from the Sacramento, it's not coming from the River, it's coming underground, all the way to that water, ends up in the Central Valley. So we don't see it over right, but it's going down, through the rock comes through. So, you know, we don't have to show that it shows up on the wall, like that's not, we just show it. Went down instead of up. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at on the forest and water, and I think it's taking what everybody knows and wrestling through what it means for water.
That's why I look at.
Yeah, just punch through this 2 years, what's it mean for water? So we have it in a plan, and we can go after it. Okay, but let's get started.
That kind of lot. Oh, okay. Targeted area.
No, they sold that back in the 60s. They had 2,000 acres right on the river together.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember.
Remember the old Jelly's Bridge?
Oh, yeah.
It's still there, they're talking on the voice. The old River Bridge still there, it's on the street.
Yeah.
So like I said, listen, you guys are walking around there, Jelly's.
Yeah, we lost everything.
Well, we did.
I know a lot, but I don't know what
Still the same bridge, they built about 49.
On the map.
They're getting ready to. I know, one thing just.
I go to the right now, especially for the amount of work.
I've been out there now. My mom's Other than we face for Jelly's Bridge.
They have been writing about it for 40 years.
I remember watching the real thing.
If everybody can, settle down. We'll get started and get out of here at a fairly decent hour. So let's go back now to item 6C, which is the overview of resource management strategy.
So the resource management strategies are a requirement of the DWR guidelines, preparation of an IRWM. It requires all regions to consider these in their plan. The resource management categories, they have 7 of them, and it's to reduce water demand, improve flood management, improve operational efficiency and transfers, increase water supply, improve water quality, practice resource stewardship, and then new in the 2013 draft California Water Plan update is people and water. So included in your packet is a list of the 2013 resource management strategies. And I should say that the DWR requirements for the IRWM update is to include the resource management strategies from the 2009 California Water Plan, and then encourages the inclusion of the additional management strategies from the 2013 update, which is in a draft form, and I believe it's under review right now, public review. So,
Can I ask, which of these columns are in the water plan? I'm assuming all the RMSs are, and the definitions are in the water plan, correct?
Correct.
The examples also, or are those, did we generate those for this effort?
No, those are also.
Okay, but then the suggested work group assignment,
That's something that we put together.
because those work groups, that's the creation of this body, correct? I mean, it's not like all the other IRWMs are divvied up that way or dividing the work groups, is that right?
That's correct. It was to kind of channel the focus
Right.
that was relevant to this region. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Or taking a breath?
So the table that's in your packet, there are suggested work group assignments here, and part of what we're requesting today is that some of these resource management strategies be assigned to the work groups, to give the work group something to get started on. Okay. So I guess I'll just go by one, and you guys can discuss things together. So the first one is agricultural water use efficiency. It's the efficient management of water resources for beneficial uses, preventing waste, or accomplishing additional benefits with the same amount of water. And we recommended that this be assigned to the agricultural land stewardship.
So moved.
Any objection to that assignment? Do I hear a second?
Do you want to, can we just maybe do this as a, so we don't have to vote on each one of them, so we just bundle them together?
Sure, that would be.
And then in case, and then pull
more
something out.
timely.
Yeah, in case we pull something out we don't like.
So right now, we're assigning that at least temporarily to agricultural land stewardship. There was no objection. Okay. Number 2.
Urban water use efficiency. This is the efficient management of water resources for beneficial uses, preventing waste, or accomplishing additional benefits within the same amount of water from municipal services. And we've recommended that for the municipal services.
Well, one of the things that immediately crops up to me is like anything to do with water, the integrated interest in each of these groups and that issue. Because certainly, yeah, municipal services, that's fine, but most people would read that to be like within Portola or within Chester or somewhere where we have a CSD that's providing a municipal service, or where we need one that we don't have. But I can also see that that would very much be part of agricultural land stewardship and a number of the others. So that brings to my mind, how are we cross-pollinating these issues between the groups?
I don't think there's any reason that it couldn't be assigned to more than one group, and then when they come together once a year for their integration workshop, that it could be brought together and discussed at that point too.
So what's everybody think? Should we also say municipal services, but then look at maybe even agricultural land stewardship, so scientific account. But, efficient management of water resources, I think that's key to agriculture. At least the years I grew up in agriculture, it was.
I think for, organizational sake, I think that you've done a good job of just capturing the general topic.
Yeah.
And what if we had a process where these particular groups are going to be the lead ones, and they can kick it back? And of course, we can do that too. We can kick it back to saying, you didn't get agriculture to look at this, and you need to. We don't know what their results are going to be. We don't know what their findings are going to be. So perhaps we could have a mechanism where we can either, it's because what I see happening, this is really germane, because I was looking at all these things. We can put
everybody.
Yeah. So, I think what you did is you just kind of grouped it, from reading it, it was pretty intelligently.
As the task.
That was the comment. So what we can do is that we can say that if there becomes another group's, it's these groups' responsibilities.
They want to chunk some of it,
yeah. So.
Did you say chunk?
Yes. We could also have joint meetings of the work groups. Both groups are really pushing on something. We can say, okay, maybe these two work groups need to meet together this time and really hash this issue out. So that's why the work groups are pretty flexible, except for those two all work group meetings where on projects and plan chapters, you make sure you did it. But I think one thing we're hoping for as coordinators is that these issues come up and the groups ag needs to sit down with municipal, or municipal needs to sit down with forest, that we can make that happen at their work group level and bring things back to leadership.
That kind of brings me to a question, a combination of what you just said, Leah and Russell, and that rather than us sitting here trying to dictate to the groups, here's what you're assigned, how about we say, here are the resource management strategies that have to be addressed. And you groups go through those strategies and come back to us and tell us, these are the issues we feel we need to address, and these are the partners in the other subgroups that we will be engaging on each of these issues. In other words, I would rather see it come from the subgroups, and then it'd be up to us to say, well, somebody forgot to address something that was boring and no one wants to do that. That's something, but I think that would be more meaningful, because I know the people you have managing your coordinating the subgroups, and you're all certainly very capable of sitting down as the coordinators together and kind of going through this list and then going to your subgroup saying what issues you feel are, because you're not going to be able to cover every single issue. No, even you could in this period of time, so you're going to be prioritizing. And so I'm kind of thinking it would be more meaningful for them to come back to us and say, this is what we're going to look at.
Agreed. My comment would be that, and that addresses it pretty well, but the time that each group has to designate to a specific process, and I understand that's why you broke it out like that. And it's very reasonable, that's why we have work groups. But if we start overlapping too much, then people get too spread out and can't really focus on the processes or the parts that they can be the best at. And their priorities get spread.
Holly?
Sure, I got a question on, or maybe it goes to Randy, on this table. The things that are bolded are assigned and the ones that are grayscale aren't. Was that prioritization, or just what's the deal with those items that are in this RMS table?
My observation is the one you just made, that the grayscale ones are the ones that haven't been assigned to anybody, are recommended assignment, and the ones that are bolded that have somebody identified.
Okay.
Yeah. Uma says yes. So, what do you think? Process to the coordinators and their subgroups to come back to us with what they're going to tackle, and then we review that in a few minutes. I think that's approved. Do I hear a motion to that?
I make a motion that we consider out the subgroups and they bring it back to us.
Second, anybody? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. That ends that.
but this is a good exposure to kind of the array of issues that we have to look at.
Oh, I know.
It's a great format.
So what, I'm a little confused, so what do we do with blank ones?
Obviously, in her termination, they need to be addressed, their solidity, and
Oh, good.
that's the way I took it, correct?
And basically, if the coordinators are separate,
If they want
find one of
Want
those.
one,
They can take,
or to find something new.
was that your idea?
Exactly. They'll be coming back to us saying, we want to work on this.
Right, it's mostly that it wasn't clear which work group that should go in, and that would be for you guys to decide. Some of them, like Serenity, didn't seem, and, E-Thousand seemed to be relevant. But they should definitely be looked at, I think, to be as close as
Well, the coordinators will be going through the entire list, I think, as they decide with their group.
All right, so we're gonna ask the coordinators to look at these and then make recommendations, at least to have a lead group to look at it.
Stake their claim.
Is that okay with the
Yeah, as
coordinators?
long as somebody makes a decision.
Well, you guys stake your claims, and those are.
Gary, is that
That's
sound good
it.
to you? Do you hear what we're talking about? Okay. So you can look at these and sort them out, and then if there's some crossovers, you can figure
Yeah,
out.
that you guys can, temporarily, you guys cooperate.
I like that idea. So you just delegate that sucker right over there. That's it.
What kind of a timeline do we have?
Hey, Russell.
Yeah.
Randy.
So, the work groups are intended to meet before you meet again. So this is something the coordinators can work on and then present to the work groups, and we can bring back to you at your next meeting.
Right, exactly.
Logistically. I'm gonna say it because we have to do it. We have to look at climate change in this effort. And we do have, sub-consultants under INMA that will be working on that. I don't wanna hide from it. It's the reality of the requirements for the IRWM. It's not on your agenda. I'm not asking you to make an opinion on it. I just want to make sure that you have eyes wide open that that is one of the things we have to look at vis-a-vis this effort.
Sure.
It's not always an easy word to say, but I decided that, as I sit here, we better at least say that you've been informed that that's part of what's coming at you at some point.
Is climate change addressed at all in like the forest management processes, or is it addressed at all in any of the subgroups?
Over the subgroups?
Yeah.
No, the consultants will be giving a presentation on climate change efforts that they're going through, and they'll be giving that at a joint workshop management group meeting. So there'll be a workshop on it, but it's not tasked to any of the workers. Did that answer?
I'm not sure
Kind of an
how we
umbrella.
will address it, if we'll just be informed and educated more about it, or it's something that we will actually try to address in one of our work groups.
The consultants will be developing a chapter for the plan, and that chapter will come to the work groups for comment and review.
It's an umbrella issue, really.
Okay, so does that complete item C, now that we've passed the subject? Delegation is good. Okay, that brings us to item 7, which is next meetings, schedule future meetings, and topics for the next meeting.
So the work plan specifies 12 management group meetings spread over 2 years. So the schedule that is identified in the handout is based on every other month. And because this is the third Wednesday of the month, started there and just assumed that third Wednesday and went through. So it's up to you guys to change this or to accept it. I did include a change for November because that would land on the day right before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Knowing full well that trying to schedule dates out 2 years with this group is going to be something else. Debbie?
I do want to point out that the number 12 meeting is after your contract deadline is up. So unless we extend the contract, we can't have anything that's reimbursable happen after June. Okay.
And I am aware of that, and you and I have not talked about that.
Oh, boy. I'll tell you, I hear discussion happening, but
happen, but the awareness is, we try to get started as soon as possible after the contract was signed. It just wasn't logistically there. There is a hope that we'll finish early, and the farther along we can get, we might be able to accelerate this process a little bit, so we get done quicker than 2 years. And if needed, it looks like we need to extend that contract. I'll have those discussions with Debbie way before it looks like we're in trouble on that, so that we're not.
I see the handwriting on the wall.
Is that this afternoon?
No, I don't think we're gonna, I actually think that once everybody gets engaged in this process, and part of why I'm saying that is how this meeting has gone along here today. There'll be a desire to move it along pretty quickly, to get us some answers, get us some projects, and, keep people's interest. I think that it may go faster than the 2 years that we've been given to do it under the contract.
Yeah, I think in the wintertime, when the time avails, we can have a meeting every month if it's an opportune time to get things done.
So what I'm just trying to do here is really give you a kind of a tentative idea of the schedule, recognizing that, as Sherry has said, 2 years out in our calendars is a pretty hard thing to schedule.
Well, I make a motion to adopt the current schedule, subject to change.
I can't make Tuesday or Thursday meetings, so, the 18th is a Tuesday. 2015, never mind, that's what I'm saying. Looking at 2015. But my schedule will probably change before then too.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adopting this schedule, knowing full well it will slide around like a hockey puck on ice? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, great. That takes us to topics for the next meeting. Yeah, I've been looking at the agenda where I take notes. I know we're going to be bringing back the MOU. So our homework assignment is to be prepared to do something on that. And then we also, we're going to bring back the draft stakeholder involvement plan. More reading of something. And I assume at that meeting we'll be getting reports back from our subgroups on the tasks that they're going to take on in the RMS process. Anything else anybody can think of? That I know new things will be cropping up, carrying over from this meeting.
Will those two top things be action items?
At that point, yeah, I think so. We can't delay beyond that because we need to start getting the MOU signed. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that we were just talking, there's a huge amount of education and background information that this group needs to acquire in a fairly short period of time in order to be informed decision makers. And one of the things that I have been thinking about was trying to arrange an educational presentation on some different items, and I know Paul had said that he thought he could work on his end of the county, but for instance, I'm very intimately familiar with the watershed issues at my end of the county, but I'm only generally aware of issues at your end, and I imagine you guys are pretty similar in that. So in addition to these formal meetings, I want to let you guys know it's going to be my intent to see if I can put together an educational presentation where no action will be taken, no discussion will be had other than to ask questions for information, but so that we can begin to educate ourselves in the issues and make good decisions that impact the entire watershed rather than just individual areas. So I'll work with you on that and you can see what I put together.
A comment.
One thing while I'm on that subject, and Debbie's here, one of the things we've been talking about that we would all really like to understand more clearly exactly what's in the water bond that's coming up for election.
Me too.
And so I'm wondering if you could somehow or another inquire through Department of Water Resources channels if there might be somebody that could come give us a presentation on what's in the water bond. Because I'm certain, being the headwaters for most of the water in the state, that whatever's in
You
there
were
is.
highly considered in the process?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if you could coordinate, see if there is something like that we can put together.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be helpful.
So the water bond would be voted on in
November.
You wouldn't have an official meeting.
No, I'm saying these are not.
Yeah, I would like to put it right here to the 14th, and say maybe arrange it to the 4:30. Sitting down is going to give us another.
Okay, so
14th, then Grange.
October.
Yeah.
Did everybody hear that? About our water meeting on the 14th?
Trying to get games there too.
That there's gonna be a water meeting, a little summit, and at the Grange at 4 o'clock. Go ahead, Paul, why don't you?
Yeah,
I don't think they heard.
I just, because of this, you know, I had multiple questions from everybody, so I encouraged Cindy Medalli to come up and give us his take on the water bond, why he supported it, and why we should support it. He's gonna formally do that at 4:30 at the Grange on the 14th, and then the Cattleman's meeting is gonna be immediately following. We're gonna have dinner and.
Tuesday. Good.
You can put that on the email.
And that brings me to something with, some of us are more familiar with Brown Act than others. But as chair, you will probably receive emails from me. And when you reply, it would behoove you just to reply to me.
Yeah, not to reply.
Not to reply to all, because I will disseminate information and accumulate information. But what we can't do is have a daisy chain email meeting where we all discuss it like via email. So, and the other request I would have is if you send an email to someone relative to this group, if you would CC me on it so I'm in the loop and kind of know, in case I see some things going on over here and know the same things going on over here, maybe we can keep things coordinated. So, anything else for our topic?
I'm gonna send you the flyer right now, and then you can send it out there.
It would be ideal if we had a live or active calendar on the website as well, for those of us
That use website?
that use websites or forget the ratings.
So we have a couple of other comments, and we've got some other items. I'm gonna just start by, this is the existing IRWM for the Upper Feather River. It will be the basis that we start to rewrite from. It is on the website. I know I've sent out packages to people, but I just wanted to remind you, we're not really starting from total scratch, although by the time we're done, it may seem that way. But we do have the existing one that we're starting with. Whether you like it or not, and you may not like it, but that's the basis, and you'll be revising from this. There's a lot of good background information on the watershed within this document. So I encourage all of you to try to get as familiar with it as possible. I decided to not make it an agenda item for this meeting. I think that would have been a little overwhelming, and maybe in some future meeting, before we actually start producing chapters, we want to discuss it, or maybe not, but I just want everybody to be encouraged to actually look at this document, and in particular, you know, look at the background information and kind of what it says overall.
And that document's on?
It's on featherriver.org.
featherriverwater.com.
featherriverwater.com for anybody that doesn't have enough stuff to read.
And that is listed, the website is actually listed on the agenda in blue. So, and it's got a bunch of appendices, but I'm really encouraging everybody to kind of get familiar with what this document really has in it, because it will be the starting basis, even though in the end it may just be the front and back pages that are somewhat similar and not the entire thing.
Yeah, I might note that all the work group coordinators, our email address are all linked in there too, in this document, somewhere right here, I just saw it. Right here somewhere, I'll find it.
Anybody have anything else?
Roma has a couple.
Roma?
So we have a few more things that are planned for the agenda next time. One of them will be hearing a presentation from Zeke on the website portal and the website. So right now, there's the featherriverwater.com website, which has been there for years. And then some of that information was also migrated over to the county website. So, for example, the archive meeting is going to be on the county website. We'll be figuring out, especially with the direction we received from you guys today, and consolidating that and getting a presentation, doing a presentation on that next time. And also wanted to include that Zeke is doing our data management stuff, and he'll be putting a lot of background information on the website as we go. Just a few other things that we have on the list. We'll bring the draft chapter development schedule to you for review and approval, and also the draft project development schedule. And then we'll be reviewing or requesting review and approval of a project solicitation letter. That's the project that we can send out and get going on that.
When you mentioned the draft chapter and project schedule, what we've kind of been all looking at and thinking that we would really like to see is I guess you'd almost call it like a milestone chart, so that we all have a target date of what's going to be accomplished by this date, knowing that some of that will change, but our experience, at least as supervisors, has been that if you don't have a target date, it slips to the bottom of the pile. So that would be real helpful too for the next meeting.
So a little bit of a funny story to end on the website. It hadn't been updated for a while. And
I'll say.
And it was just it's really, you accessed it primarily through a link on the county website. So we started looking into what was going on, because I didn't know how to update it, and Steve got involved, and it turned out that Brian Morris has been paying for that website.
Out of his own pocket? Out
of his own pocket, since he left the county and paid for it initially. And so
I hope you didn't tell him.
He's the one that came back and goes, somebody's made an inquiry about how to modify the website. And I go, well, we've been trying to figure out how to do that, and who's paying for it? He goes, I am. And
yeah.
Sort of Brian's humor, I think he actually knew that one day we would be doing this, and one day we'd have those inquiries, and we would be talking to him.
And you would negotiate.
Makes me really glad.
I got a quick question. When I go report back to the forest leadership, I just want to introduce the IRWM. There's obviously good turnout and a lot of interest. So I'm operating under an assumption, and I want to verify my assumption. So is this the IRWM and the interest that's sitting here is due primarily because of funding, correct?
No.
No.
I think it's due primarily, at least I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
It's due primarily from a very deep concern of the health of our watershed and proper management of those resources. Funding, we really, other than the grant that we have, we really are going to be looking to fund projects and that type of thing. But the driving force is not funding. It's recognizing the critical nature that we're in right now.
If we don't do it, somebody else will. So we may not like what somebody else is doing.
Yeah, it's an effort at exercising local control.
Okay.
That's the best way.
And coordination.
And coordination between the organizations. Yeah.
I think it would behoove the group to become familiar with the projects that were completed under the original plan that are currently being finished up under the Prop 50 grant that the county holds, so that they know what projects were done and where they fit within meeting the objectives of the plan and what the status is of that. I think that would be good for the management group to be educated on.
I can put the Prop 50, pre-Prop 50 discussion, because that's what implemented it, and that's what Jay is talking about on
Sure.
the next agenda.
That would be good. And I think many of us that are sitting here are intimately familiar with them, but there's probably a few people that aren't, and that would be helpful. Okay? Holly?
I would like maybe at public meetings clarification on what I thought I heard Randy say as far as what a project is, of problem identification, as opposed or maybe in conjunction with what a lot of people feel as a project is actually something that's done on the ground. So just clarification on that as far as what the task of those groups that are moving forward when we're talking about projects. There's really no money for doing something, is there, in this process?
Not in this process, no.
So
No.
a project identification of the issues or whatever, but just clarification of what projects mean.
And you bring up a really good point, Holly, because I had that question asked, and I've heard everybody around here say they have the same question. Does this mean there's money to do something on the ground? And really, yeah, that would be a key discussion, and should be a discussion, especially at the subgroups, is the fact that what we're trying to do is identify situations and potential solutions, hoping to build a portfolio of future projects that can be accomplished, would be how I would read that.
And from what I read in the new water law, the emphasis is going to be for funding structure through the IRWs. It's pretty bold when you read the new bond.
That we could get some more mandates to that.
That's where it appears that the funding stream is going to be designated.
So a little bit about why I use the word problem and associate it with project. You got to have agreement on what you need to fix or what's wrong. So I kind of drive the language a little bit to make an association that a project is really trying to solve a problem. And if a project is not trying to solve a problem, why should you be doing it? It's the question that comes to mind. This is a little bit from my educational background. Was the first law of public administrations: if you're not working on a problem that the public can see as a problem, get agreement on it, maybe you're not working on something that you want to accomplish in the end. So yes, projects are a project, but the association with trying to solve a problem related to what you're trying to put on the ground is certainly there. You start to think about it, it makes the definition of the project clear as to what you're trying to accomplish, because you're associating it with a problem. Sometimes that might be difficult to achieve, trying to make those associations. But once done, you have a stronger relationship between actually what you're trying to accomplish and what it is, which is usually the problem that you're trying to solve.
Effectively, it's a phase of the project.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions, comments? Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.